All right. Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the Aggie Transcripts winter info session. I'm going to pull up my screen so we can get started. Yeah, absolutely. We are happy to have everyone here tonight. So before I get started, just a few logistics. You're welcome to pop questions in the chat throughout the info session. We'll have a few editors answering questions there. Also, I'll try to pause throughout the session as well for people to unmute themselves or to catch up on the questions that we have. And hopefully we'll have some time at the end for questions as well. Yeah, with that, I'll introduce myself. My name is Daniel Ehrenstein. My pronouns are he, him, or they, them. And I am this year's editor-in-chief of the Aggie Transcript. I study neurobiology, physiology, and behavior and professional writing. And I'll be graduating in June. So with that, I will get us started, and you'll meet a few other members of the team throughout the presentation. All right, everyone can see that, right?
Yeah, you're
cool.
Good.
All righty. So, so the Aggie Transcript is a student-run life sciences journal for undergraduates at UC Davis. We've been around for about 7 years now, and our faculty advisor, Dr. Sean Burgess, will talk about that in a little bit. But we publish biology writing, news, research, literature reviews, as well as photography and art. And we publish those submissions online. And then at the end of the year, every year we create a print edition, which we'll also talk a little bit about in a few minutes. And so I'm going to pass the mic to our faculty advisor, Dr. Burgess, to talk a little bit about the history of the journal, since she's been with us the longest.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Glad you can make it. I actually see a couple familiar names here. This is great. Some MCB 164 folks. Good to see you. So I started I guess I had kind of the idea of the Aggie Transcript back in, it was like 2013, yeah, maybe 2014, around then. I was teaching advanced molecular biology, and I was getting to know some students and, realizing that students have these really big writing assignments in their UWP classes, and I was feeling like this is just kind of a shame that no one's going to get to see this writing. And I thought, well, what if we had a journal where students could showcase what they wrote in their UWP classes, or whatever they wanted to write? So I found a couple students in the class, and they came up with our logo, the typewriter, typing out the code there, and kind of the whole kind of the structure of the journal, how it's going to work, a mission statement, all those kinds of things. And they put up a web page in 2014, and I continued. I've been the advisor ever since. Sometimes we have a UWP faculty advisor. They kind of come and go, but the really big event that happened was our first print edition, which I'm not sure, would that be 2017? Oh, it's right there, yeah. The first print edition. So, these students who started in 2014, had this vision that someday they were hoping there'd be a print edition of the Aggie Transcript. And, 4 years ago, students, they achieved that, and they put together this first hard copy. Since then, I think the more people know about the Aggie Transcript, the editorial board has increased quite a bit, and they've put out their fourth hard copy now. And it is an amazing thing that they did. And I wish you guys were on campus so that we could give you one. But as soon as we are, contact one of us. You know, if you're interested, we can get you one of these. But they're really nice. Let's see. I don't know if I have a whole lot more to say. I guess the other thing I wanted to say was, one of the ideas of having the journal also was that students would not only be able to showcase their work, but you would also have something to put on your resume. So if you're published, that's a really big deal. And so you can put this publication on your resume. And in fact, I know a lot of employers who kind of asked specifically about that and about the articles, and even went and read some of the articles that the students wrote. So it's a way to get your work out there, even for future employers. Being a member of the editorial board is another thing that people can put on their applications. And, you know, that really is it shows, you know, leadership, taking this project from the beginning to end. And so, again, I think it's a good thing for the editors to be able to have this recognition. So you know, not to go on and on, but basically, you know, I was hoping to create this pathway to publication. And I kind of just started it, and then these students have just taken it on and ran with it ever since.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Burgess. So with that, we'll move on to talking a little bit about our website. And this is our homepage, and I'm going to pass the mic to our web developer, our current web developer, who will be talking a little bit about the web developer applications that we have opening up.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Daniel. My name is Brooke. So yeah, as Daniel said, I'm the web developer for the Aggie Transcript. I joined in my freshman year, so that was about 2 years ago now. So yeah, in case you haven't seen our website yet, this is a screenshot of our homepage, and kind of like what was mentioned, we upload submissions on our website once a week on Fridays, and we post updates there as well, and information about submitting or applying, and pictures of our board members and stuff. That's all on our website. So yeah, I'm the web developer right now, but we're looking for a new one actually. So this web developer position, you'll basically be managing the publishing like papers that go up weekly, and also just managing like any kind of like bug fixes or anything that need to be done periodically. But it's mostly just publishing the paper. Like that's my biggest job every week. And then like every quarter, like if we get new people on the board, it'll be your job to like upload their pictures and update their bios and stuff like that. Um, I don't think for this position, like the skill set isn't, it's not like too big, right? Because we host our website on WordPress. So it's mostly just going in an interface and changing things that way. But basic HTML and CSS is necessary just to have like a basic understanding of it, and just kind of like problem solving, because like I said, like sometimes we have bugs on the website. But I will be training you for the new position if you chose to apply. So you'll kind of have an idea of what to do from that too. Oh yeah, so the deadline for applying is February 17th, and you kind of just need to say like why you're interested in joining, what you can bring to the journal, what you hope to gain, all the typical stuff for a cover letter. And then this is all standard stuff for like applying to the Aggie Transcript, but including like your course schedule, your resume, and some design samples that you could show for web design. And then just email that to us at our email, but all this information can also be found on the website for reference in the future.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brooke. I just wanted to add on that this relevant design samples part of the application, not really a super big requirement for this position. If you have web design examples or a design portfolio or examples of your work in like website design classes, whatever you think would like help improve your application, definitely do include it. But if you don't have samples like this and you still want to apply, I definitely think you still should for this particular position. So I'll pause real quickly to see if there's any web developer questions before I move on to the next part of the info night. Feel free to unmute yourself or put questions in the chat. But I don't think there's any questions for right now, so I'll move on, and then we can come back to this at the end if there are questions. So I want to talk a little bit about the submission types that we accept. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we accept news articles, feature articles, which is sort of broad. You know, it can be interviews with scientists on campus or other researchers. We publish undergraduate research, so this would be original research that you do under a PI's mentorship. And so if you do want to submit undergraduate research to the journal, we would need a note from your PI giving us permission to publish that work. We also publish case studies. We receive a lot of writing from UWP 104F, which is writing in the health professions. And that class does some case study writing, and so we typically get some submissions that are from those classes. We also have a science and society section, and this section was created, I believe, a year and a half ago or so, to provide space for articles that take a look at biological research, events, or other topics in biology, and sort of take a broader look at the impact of that research or that biological development on society. We also have our reviews section, which includes book reviews, and these would be like popular science books, for example, like The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, or The Gene in Intimate History. I think those are both books that we've had reviews of in the past in the journal and on our website. We also accept literature reviews, which are in-depth reviews of existing literature on a specific topic in biology. So these are typically some of the more technical submissions that we get in terms of like the writing style, but they are really great because they summarize, you know, where a scientific field is at, and provide readers with an understanding of that. And then finally, we also accept art and photography. And over on the right here is an example of a series of watercolor paintings that we accepted last year. And here it is, actually, this is a page from our print edition journal. And so, you know, this is one example of art that, you know, that we've accepted in the past, and there are many other examples on our website. Art includes photography, it includes poetry even, drawings, paintings, etc. You know, so it's really an opportunity to get creative and, you know, sort of interdisciplinary with biology and art. So to submit to the journal, you can submit writings from previous classes. For example, case studies, literature reviews, popular science writing, etc. In fact, a lot of the writing that we receive does come from university writing program classes, as well as some of the CBS classes as well. It's great because the writing that comes from those classes is, you know, very well developed, and like Dr. Burgess was talking about earlier, you know, you've put a lot of work into this writing, and why not submit it to a journal so that it can be published? We also, for the art submissions, require that it be scanned. And this is just to ensure quality of the submission online and in print when we publish it. These are available on campus. I think the availability is limited. I think there's a printer and a scanner in the library currently. So if you have any issues with that, feel free to email us and we can work through that together. And further instructions on how to submit can be found at our website. But this email down here, aggietranscript@gmail.com, is the email address that you would submit your work to, and then the editorial board would review it. And so speaking of that, here's our editorial process. With art, the art doesn't usually go through this process for, I think, reasons that will be obvious in a sec. But all the papers we receive do go through this editorial process. So the first thing that happens is, like I said on the previous slide, an author submits a paper and we will review it as a board at the following board meeting, and we'll make a decision about whether to accept or reject the submission. If we choose to accept the submission for further editing, it will be assigned to 2 editors from our team, usually a senior editor and a junior editor, who give feedback on the document through a shared Google Drive doc. And then the author has a chance to make revisions based on that feedback. And this process can repeat itself several times over until the editors and the authors agree that the paper is ready for publication. And at that point, the paper is published on our website. We can't guarantee that every online publication appears in our print edition due to space limitations that we sometimes run into, but typically we publish almost everything in print. So I wouldn't let that stop you from submitting. And here's some of the figures that we've published in the past, and I'll hand the mic off to Aditi to talk a little bit more about that.
Hi, everybody. I'm Aditi. I'm the managing editor of the Aggie Transcript, as well as a co-print edition editor this year. I'm a third-year genetics and statistics double major. My pronouns are she, hers, and hers. So for our figures, what you're looking at right here are 2 figures that our graphics team custom made for papers that were submitted to our journal. So, you know, a lot of scientific communication, of course, the meat and potatoes is the article that you actually submit, but we do believe very strongly that visual communication is just as important as the written component. So we very recently like launched our graphics team to help create custom graphics that help support and complement all the hard work that you put in as a writer. So the figure on the top right, this is like the development life cycle of a zebrafish. The way we developed this figure was the author actually drew out something very similar to this on a piece of like notebook paper, and our graphics team adapted it into what you're looking at right now. The figure on the bottom left is something that complemented something about cancer pathways. The author basically found a Google image that they really liked. They thought it supported their paper well. And we created that same figure from scratch using, I think, PowerPoint. So the reason we're showing you this is because, you know, if you do submit to the Aggie Transcript and your paper is accepted for publication, you will be asked to provide us some sort of figure or graphic component to accompany your paper, and then our graphics team will work with you side by side to make sure that the graphic we create is actually accurate and matches what you wanted to say about your article. So no figure would be published without the author's explicit like go ahead. But yeah, these are two other hand-drawn figures, one of lungs for a pulmonary fibrosis article, or not pulmonary, for IPF. The one of the brains was about brain chemistry, obviously. So there's a lot of flexibility with what your graphic can look like. We need a starting point, and that's what we'd be asking you for. If you're interested in actually, you know, making these graphics, you are more than welcome to apply to the Aggie Transcript as a graphic designer, and you'd be joining our team of print designers and graphic designers who all work together to create our annual print edition, which, as Dr. Burgess said, is truly like our, you know, crown jewel at the Aggie Transcript.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Aditi. We actually don't have information about the graphic designer application in this InfoNight presentation, but if you have questions about that, feel free to stick around to the end, and we can answer questions about that. I also received a question via direct message that I wanted to address. So someone asked what the likelihood of having your writing accepted or rejected is. And, you know, I don't have, I guess, a number estimate on that, but I will say that a lot of the writing that we accept is not ready to be published immediately, right? Like, we don't expect the writing to be immediately ready to, you know, appear online and in our journal. And that's part of the reason that the papers that we take on go through this editing process. And I think the majority of the papers that we receive do end up going through this process. So I wouldn't let like that fear of being rejected discourage you from submitting. I really do think that. So I hope that helps to answer that question, but I'm happy to talk more about that in a bit. So this is, these are some of our past print editions. The one on the left is our most recent edition that we put out in September. And then this is, you know, the previous year, and then this was actually the first ever edition of the first ever print edition of the Aggie Transcript. So as has been mentioned before, we typically produce this print edition every year during the spring. And so if you are interested in being included in this year's print edition, now would be a great time to start thinking about submitting your writing and your art, because sometime during the spring, typically we haven't decided exactly when we'll close submissions for this year's print edition, but sometime during the spring, we typically do have a deadline. And it's not that we won't consider submissions after that deadline. It's just that they would unlikely to be included in this year's edition, and we would save them for next year's. But there's never a deadline for publishing things online. We do that year round. We accept on a rolling basis. And so I'll talk a little bit about the junior editor position. And a quick note before I get into that about the name of the position. This does not refer to class year. It actually just refers to the fact that you're a new editor on the board versus senior editors who have had 1 year of experience on the Aggie Transcripts board. And so one of the great things about being a junior editor is that we actually pair a junior editor and a senior editor on every article that you're assigned to. And one of the reasons for this is mentorship, to learn from the senior editors' editing experience with Aggie Transcript, and to sort of learn on the job as you go about how scientific editing works. And so we also provide training. I meet with all new editors when their applications are accepted. And so there's no prior experience required to apply for the junior editor position. We do ask for a few things that I'll talk about in a minute. But before I do that, some of the responsibilities of the junior editor position include reviewing and editing submissions, researching and writing new submissions of your own, and then as well helping to plan and participate in publicizing events like our info nights, for example, and then helping us solicit funding for the journal as well. And you are able to receive 1 unit of academic credit per quarter. Dr. Burgess is the person who oversees that. So if you were to be accepted, you would want to check in with Dr. Burgess about that. And that credit can be offered through MCB. I think it's 198, which is just sort of a independent study credit, or the UWP department as well has writing internships, and the Aggie Transcript has been used to fulfill that as well in the past. So to apply for the junior editor position, we accept applications throughout the year. Probably our next major review of applications will happen during early spring. So if you're interested in applying, similar to the application for web developer, we'd like you to send us a cover letter talking a little bit about why the Aggie Transcript? Like, why are you interested in joining the journal? What do you think? What do you think you can gain from the experience of being an editor on the board? And also what you can what you can bring to the board as well. And then in addition to the cover letter, we also ask for course schedule. This would probably be your spring course schedule since we're already halfway through winter. But I mean, if you were to apply shortly, we might be able to take you on in winter. As well as resume and writing samples, or I don't know why that's plural. You can submit one, you can submit multiple, but only one is required. If possible, if you have science writing that you've done, definitely submit that. but it's not required to submit science writing. It can be any type of writing that showcases your abilities. And you would email those materials to aggietranscript@gmail.com. All right, I'm gonna pause for questions before we get into the next part. And I think we're close to the end here, so there's not too much left, but I do want to pause for questions real quick. All righty, I will move on to the next slide, but yet again, we're getting close to the Q&A at the end, so feel free to also hold your questions for that time. These are a few photos of our board from last year. This is winter 2020, so you know it's the last time that we were able to gather in person. But our board we have a lot of new members since a year ago that aren't pictured here, and I think we have some of them on the Zoom. So do any of the editors here want to unmute themselves and talk a little bit about their experience as an editor, what they've liked about being on board? Anyone is welcome to.
Yeah, I can start us off. So hi everyone. My name is Fish. I've been a board member for a year now, a little more than a year. First of all, I'm a poli-sci major. So first of all, that should kind of tip you off that, you know, you really just need to have a passion for science writing on the Aggie Transcript. We don't really need like bio majors, or we don't need people that have like been in labs or have had like a ton of scientific writing experience. We just want people that are excited and passionate about science writing itself. And you know, I'm sure like any board members can testify. My time on the Aggie Transcript has been great. I think everyone on the board is, you know, very intelligent, but also very fun to be around. I mean, the picture on the left was us like going out to frozen yogurt, and I don't know, it was a really fun day at the kind of at the end of regular life at UC Davis. But yeah, I don't know. I really enjoy my time on the Aggie Transcript, and I hope you apply, and you do too.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rish. Does anyone else want to share? Okie dokie. We can move on to our next slide. So I think this is actually our last slide. Here's some of our social media pages where you can follow us. We post announcements about new articles on our Facebook, as well as some really awesome images on our Instagram and Twitter accounts. And you can also find us on LinkedIn, and feel free to send me a LinkedIn request if you want to connect. I'd be happy to talk more about the Aggie Transcript, you know, over email or over LinkedIn, or however you want to reach out. And then there's a lot of information on our website. So also definitely do visit that if you want to learn more. And of course, you can email aggietranscript@gmail.com if you have any questions at any point. And we will get back to you from that email in a timely manner.
Definitely stay, tuned to our social media accounts for some exciting surprise announcements about our print edition for 2021. So I'm not going to give any
Yes,
spoilers, but follow our Instagram.
there's some fun things coming up in the next month or two as we prepare for that. So with that, yes, that's my last slide. So we've got quite a bit of time until 8 p.m. So happy to stick around for any questions that you all have. If not, you are. This is the official end of the session, so you're also welcome to leave the meeting if you don't have questions. But we'll stick around for any questions that you have.
Hi, I have a few questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, first of all, my name's Karen. Thank you so much for the information. If I'm interested in trying to join this winter quarter, what's the best way to go about that? Would I submit an application as soon as possible?
So, sorry, there's an echo, I think, on your end.
I think that was my speaker. Sorry. Is that better?
No, yeah, that's a little better. I would apply as soon as possible. It might be hard to bring you on by before the end of winter quarter, since we're halfway through. But we'll definitely, if we accept your application, we'll definitely bring you on as quickly as possible.
Great. And is there like a 1-to-1 ratio between junior and senior editors?
I think right now we actually have more junior editors than senior editors, but some of our junior editors will be becoming senior editors fairly soon. So it's not a 1-to-1, but it's not far off from that.
And you mentioned one of the responsibilities of junior editors is to help out with seeking funding sources. How is the transcript typically funded?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's something that this is a process that we go through every year. We typically receive funding for, let me back up and say that the day-to-day operations of the journal do not require like daily funding. Like, I don't think we have to pay for the website address, since it's housed under UC Davis. But our big funding effort takes place towards the end of each year for the print edition, because that is an expensive effort to send hundreds of copies of the journal off for printing from a publisher. And so we typically reach out to the College of Biological Sciences, the College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences, as well as the Center for Student Involvement, which has a council that awards grants to student organizations for events and publications. And so those are our typical funders. A lot of the process is reaching out to those to the people that we're in contact with each year, and submitting applications if we need to those campus units and groups. So those have been our funding sources in the past, but there's always a possibility that we could expand that funding from other organizations, whether they're UC Davis organizations or not. But those are the ones we get our funding from at the moment, or in the past at least.
And Daniel, I kind of just want to add on one thing, is that Karen, I think that you said that junior editors, somewhere in our presentation, we said that junior editors helped work on that funding. A lot of it, I mean, we don't really try and like offload that kind of work onto junior editors. And when we do, it's usually when junior editors kind of volunteer for that stuff. We have a great treasurer, Mari, who kind of, when junior editors kind of volunteer to do that kind of stuff, she works very closely with them, and they kind of make sure that it's perfect. So we don't just kind of throw you to the wind and just let you write a grant by yourself. So yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that clarification, Fish. Yeah. Senior editors are also involved in that process. So, like Vish said, that our treasurer is the main lead on those initiatives, but they are, time consuming. So we often have more than just the treasurer working on them.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Definitely. No problem. A question in the chat. Oh, you're welcome. Oh, I see another question that came in via direct message. Sorry for missing that. So someone asked if we're looking for multiple web developers. I think it depends on the applications we receive. I don't necessarily have an answer on that at the moment, but we could consider it either way, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, right now we only have the one Aggie Transcript website, so we've been able to manage pretty well with one web developer. But that being said, if you have like an idea for us to like branch out or have a second, website that you're considering having multiple web developers for, we'd love to hear it. Like, as you've seen, Aggie Transcript is always coming up with different ways to, change with the times, whether that's developing a new section or like an entirely different, website. So yeah, let us know what your ideas are.
Okay, 2 new questions came in. I wasn't able to join the meeting on time. Will I be able to watch the recording somewhere? Yes. So if you registered for the info session, we will send out a link to the recording. So don't worry if you missed part of it. We'll send that out. It'll probably not happen until tomorrow, but it'll come in the next day or so. And then no problem. And then another question, what is the typical length for a submission in the science and society section? That's a good question. I'd say probably around between 1,000 and 2,000 words, I'd say, but some have been longer. I don't think many have been shorter than that because science and society articles take a in-depth look at an issue and explore the impacts on society, and also the articles have to take time explaining the biology of the research or the development as well. So I think that would be hard to do in under 1,000 words. I think most of our science and society articles have been longer than that. Aditi, did you have something to add on that?
1,000 is a good baseline, but please don't feel restricted by 2,000 words. That's been an issue in some cases that, our word counts, I'm not sure if they're still on the website, are purely suggestions. Like you do not by any means need to do any kind of trimming in your paper to fit those requirements. Just send us your paper and then our editors will work with you.
Yeah. Word counts are, I think word counts tend to cramp people's writing. You should write as much as you feel is necessary to, clearly explain the biology. If you're writing a Science and Society article, or clearly explain your research if you're writing a research article, etc. And if there's unnecessarily long sections, that'll get worked out in the editing process. And I really do want to reemphasize the point that if you've taken a UWP writing in science or writing in biology, writing in health professions, writing in environmental writing class, a lot of the writing that you do in those classes is like honestly ready to submit to the Aggie transcript. It's been through the class, and I would really encourage you, if you've taken those classes, to consider submitting your writing to the Aggie transcript. And if it's accepted, it will go through even further editing. So even if you're not even necessarily happy with where it is right now, you'll have time to develop it further. That's just a plug for the UWP classes on campus, by the way. They are awesome classes.
I just wanted to add one small thing about maybe submitting UWP papers that are probably, ready for acceptance. Is that the Aggie transcript does have a specific style guide, and so you may need to adapt your paper's citations to kind of fit what we do. And I think that when you submit to us, before it goes through a round of editing, we will send you the style guide to kind of adapt your paper. If I'm not mistaken, right, Daniel?
Yep, absolutely. We recently developed a citation and style guide to standardize our the citations and the style of the writing. And so, here it is. But yet again, we'll send it to you when you, if your article is accepted. All righty. Are there other questions or comments or ideas, recipes? Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad it was helpful. Feel free to keep in touch with us over social media or over email. And yeah. All right. If there's no other questions, I will stop the recording now. And